Hello, welcome. Good afternoon, good morning, happy lunchtime. Welcome to, I think I'm going to call this series maybe like Lunchtime with Latrice, but welcome to the show. Welcome to the podcast. If you're listening on the podcast, hey. Let me know where you all are joining from. If you're joining from YouTube, LinkedIn, podcast, just kind of chime in and let me know. We're streaming multiple places and I am loving this new format. It's like getting like doing double duty for one thing, right? I love it. Hello. I am Latrice, career and leadership coach for ambitious women of color, and it is my mission and my movement to put more women of color in leadership roles and for you to have the life that you want to live. And ladies, we're talking this week all about pivoting. So last month we talked a lot about pivoting. And I love talking about pivoting and starting over in April because that always makes me think of like spring and new birth. And my son was born in April. So I always think about April as like a new beginning and starting over. And once you get into May, we should kind of be into it like, all right, we're catching our stride. Another reason, everything that is going on, not just in America in politics, but in the world, in your career, every aspect of your life is probably being touched by something that's going on externally as well. And so what that means is a pivot or a change is just inevitable, right? Again, I know people who have worked for the government for decades. My mom worked for the government for over 20 years. It was the only main job that she had ever had in her life. My aunt worked for the government for several years, for like I want to say decades, right? It's the only role they knew. And then and a lot of people now are being forced to pivot or at least think about pivoting in the government, right? If you've been in something and your industry was stable and now because of things beyond your control that industry is no longer stable, you could be thinking about a pivot. Or you could just be like, Latrice, I am over 40, taking control of my life, and I want to pivot. Okay, so now is the time. Hey, Joe from Florida. Thank you for chiming in from Florida on our LinkedIn stream. You guys, I am coming to you all from Texas. Interesting. We have rainy weather here. So if it's looking a little like a little darker than usual, I have my lighting, but it's pretty rainy out here where I'm at. Hey, let me know who's from Maryland. It's just telling me LinkedIn user. If you all cannot tell, I am originally from Baltimore. Most people can pick up on the Baltimore accent. But thank you all for joining. As I go through this, I have like three main tips that I want to share with you all, and I want to share a client story as well. But I want to hear from you all. What questions do you have? What are you all seeing in the job market? And I'll tell you all what I'm seeing. I'm seeing pivots as far as people in stable careers or what they thought was stable careers are like, Latrice, I think it's time for me to pivot. And they're looking into going into their own business, right? And I like to do a phased approach if possible. It's just more stability and safety there. And then I have a lot of women coming to me who actually had their own businesses, whether it be government contracting business, whether it was some sort of consulting business. And they're like, hey, because of things outside of their control, they now need to pivot back into the workforce. So, no matter the type of pivot that you are doing, this live is going to be for you. If you want more information, if you want to talk to me privately, I am offering free 15-minute calls. You can just DM me, like call or something like that, and I'll give you the link. Also, I have a free workshop that I did recently all on how to successfully pivot as a woman of color beyond 40. It was amazing. You guys, it's a 2-hour workshop. This was something that I could charge for. And originally I was going to charge and I made it free. The replay is still free temporarily. If you're interested in that, put pivot, PIVOT, put pivot in the comments and we're going to send you that link and you can see this workshop. It's completely free. It helps you decide what your next move is going to be, what industry you should go into. You can hear all the questions people asked. It is an amazing, amazing workshop. So recommend putting pivot in the comments. All right, we're going to get started. I just told you all kind of why I think everyone needs to see this and why pivoting is so important right now. Because either by force or by choice, and when I say we, I'm saying like women, women of color over 40, Americans, and people outside of America. Things are shifting right under our feet. So a pivot right now is inevitable. I think everyone should be preparing to pivot. If you think it's just going to be business as usual, you are sadly mistaken. And I'm going to share this. In 2024, I saw a lot of people like, I'm thinking about a pivot. I don't know. I think I need to stay in my industry where I have expertise and where I have experience. And that makes sense. 2025 here, people were like, Latrice, I'm being forced to pivot, even though it may be something you've always wanted to do. So, as I'm going through this and I'm sharing the tips, I want you all to tell me, what type of pivot have you always thought about that now may be the time? Have you ever thought about pivoting into remote work? I've had people who told me they've thought about pivoting and moving to a new country. Have you thought about pivoting and going into a new industry, right? Meaning you could keep doing what you're doing. Like, let's say you're in human resources and you're in retail, but you may want to now pivot and stay in human resources, but pivot into healthcare or a more stable, growing industry, right? So there are different realms to the pivot. But I think right now, thinking about a pivot and some purposeful intentions is what you need right now. Okay. So start putting your questions in. Let me know what you've thought about pivoting into. Where do you want to go? Do you want to start your own business? Do you want to work remote? Do you want to? I always have a lot of people who want to go into HR. Where do you want to pivot? Joe, I see you put pivot in the comments. We're going to get that link to you. But Joe, let me know, where do you want to pivot to? I'm going to look on my phone so I can see who's commenting, because it doesn't always show on my screen. All right, here's my number one tip. You need to believe and know seriously that a pivot is possible. The first thing that stalls people is the mistake that they don't even think is possible. They'll be like, I know I want to pivot, but I'm making so much money now. If I pivot, I've been told I have to start over, or I have to take a pay cut, or all these things. You have to know that you can successfully pivot and maintain your pay and maintain that salary. You have to believe it. If you go into this not believing that, you're going to make it true. Whatever you believe, you're going to make true, okay? So I just want to share that. And not only have I pivoted several times, you all know, maybe y'all don't know, I started off in hospitality. I was a waitress and a manager at a restaurant during a time when restaurants were not doing well, right? And then I was like, you know what? I want to go to school. And so then I pivoted into accounting. I hated accounting. And I stayed into that for what, 3 or 4 years? That was the worst thing ever. I hated that. Then I pivoted into marketing. I loved marketing. I went to school for business and marketing. So if you all like, I have people like, Latrice, how do you do this? I went to school for business. I have a business degree. Loved that. And then from there, I continued to love marketing, but I had a very toxic boss. And that was actually how I pivoted into HR, into human resources. Fell in love. I realized that in human resources, I could use my marketing background, my marketing degree, my accounting background. I could use my hospitality background and all these things in human resources. So I love that. I was in human resources for over 10 years. I worked my way up, got all the certifications. And then this is great things, fell in love, got married, wound up quitting that job or leaving that company and started my own business. And then went into coaching and then into career coaching. I'm like, I could use my HR skills, my marketing skills, my accounting skills, my hospitality, something I love. So just know, I didn't say start over. I didn't say I was starting from scratch. And the advice I'm telling you all, I had someone tell me, because I thought each time I pivoted, I had to take less and less money. Not true. Every pivot I've ever made in my career, I've either made the same amount or more money. Even when I went into different industries, I made more money because I used my marketing skills and my accounting, and I knew how to calculate my contributions. I knew how to talk about that. We'll get into branding a little bit, but I knew it was possible. And if you're like, Latrice, I just don't think it's possible, look for examples. Give yourself and your brain proof that it is possible. Joe says, I like to pivot into HR consulting. I worked for the government for most of my career. Okay, so you are one of those, I always say one of the government people, like my mom and my aunts who worked for the government for years and years. Here's the thing with that. You need to know your government experience is valuable. I need you all to hear this. If you work for the government, you have so much valuable experience that people who work outside of the government will never know and never understand. Not only that, Joe, you have an MBA and a PHR. You could start your own HR consulting business today and be profitable. And let me know if you all want another live on that, like how to start your own business, how to pivot into your business, how to pivot into HR consulting. Not only have I did it, but I helped several other clients. I helped a client recently. She just got a multi six-figure contract with her own HR consulting business. I have another client that went from making $92,000 a year to making over $200,000 a year in an HR consulting business and working less. So if your background, and I can see you have a PHR, if your background is in HR, it's actually easier than you think to pivot into HR consulting. You just need to know that it's possible. This is why I share so many examples with you all. I tell you all my stories. I tell you all my clients' stories so that you know it's possible. Let me know, Joe, do you believe this is possible? All right, you have to be like, I know it's possible. Like, even if you're like, all right, Latrice, I'm making six figures, you can make six figures in your business. All right. Oh, she says, I just started. Okay. You just started it. Great. Here's I'll do this another live. Let me know, Joe, if you want this into another live, right? Or if any of you out there want another live on how to start a business. The things I'm talking about are going to be the same steps you need for starting your business and getting clients and making the income that you need. Okay. So seriously, you have to believe that it's possible. If you believe that's possible, I should be saying like, I believe, I believe, I believe, I believe. When I started my own business and my mindset was, most companies don't make any money. I was like, I'm gonna have to get another job to supplement. I made these things true. When I was like, wait a minute, how much was I making before? And then I did the math. How much do I need to charge to to get this versus how many clients? That's when things change. My second tip, you need to know your payment. I wrote all these in P. So you need to know it's possible. You need to know your payment. How much are you getting paid right now? And when I ask people this, it's all these variables. Are you talking about before taxes, after taxes, what I'm contributing to my 401k, all these things? Guess what? Choose a number. Choose a number that you can get behind and that you believe. If you're like, Latrice, and this is a true story. I had a client, she was like, Latrice, I make 127,000 a year. And I was like, okay. Now I knew her job. I'm like, that sounds very high, right? I said, well, let's break it down. She's like, oh, well, 2 years ago in 2018 or 20, I think it was around 2020. She was doing really well. She got all these bonuses. And then 2021, it dipped. 2022, it dipped. 2023. And so I was like, hey, how much are you making right now that you can live off of? I recommend knowing your base before bonuses, before incentives, before stock options, right? I really recommend this because sometimes our brains, especially my ambitious, smart, brilliant Black women and women of color, our brains are smart. So they will do these things to contribute to our fear. And they'll be like, if I'm making 98,000 3 years ago with bonuses, I made 127, and if I get this raise this year, I can make 227. I need to make 330,000 in my business. I've had someone tell me this before. What your brain is doing is making something so big that you can't believe that it's possible, and then fear sets in and you just don't do it. And I've seen people start a business, never make a sale a day in their life. Go through it, start a business, set up the bank account, it's registered, get that EIN number, and never make a sale. I've had people who tell themselves, I know I want to pivot into this other industry, but I can't because I have to start over. Or I need them to pay me 300,000. Knowing right now you making 86. Don't turn it into a self-sabotaging situation. Think about the real number. Okay. I'm serious. Think about the real number. It will ease some anxiety, right? Like if you're like, hey, I want to pivot into HR, I want to pivot into consulting. What is your real number? You need to know that payment. If you want to make a pivot without a pay cut, you have to know where you're starting at in reality right now in 2025. Okay. So I'm not going to, if y'all want to, you can tell me your number, or you can message me privately. But this is an important step. And I cannot stress this enough. Don't let fear set in. Don't let self-sabotage set in. Get your real number. Okay. And so what that looks like is, what is your base salary? What is it? I do like to look at a before tax number, because when you pivot, you kind of want to be around that number, right? If you're starting your own business, you will need to pay taxes, right? You will need to pay taxes as someone who's self-employed. If you're going into accounting, going into finance, going into a different industry, payment structures can be different. So I recommend looking at your gross pay before bonuses, before incentives, before anything else. What is that base number? Okay. Knowing that you don't want to go below that. That's your base. And then what is your wish number? Right? A lot of my clients are shocked, but I'm like, you already getting underpaid, so you don't even need to stay there. Right? Sometimes the reality is you're already being underpaid. That's just the reality. So you don't even need to stay there. But we want to have a base of your payment. And then what is your wish number? Okay. What is that range that you want to be at? Then, so that's step 2. Please get very clear. This is important. You need to write this number down. Do not do it in your head and be like, I got it, because our brilliant minds will play tricks on us. Anybody want to share their number? What is your pivot number? I like to call this your pivot number. What's your pivot number? Where it's like, not I will pivot from this, but hey, I can pivot. Because sometimes people be like, if they pay me $300, 300,000, I'll pivot. Okay, well, maybe they're not going to pay you that right now. But what is your pivot number? If you're making 87, would you pivot into a different industry for 89? If you're making 120,000, would you pivot into a new industry for 120,000? Or can you? All right. So if you all want, you can message me directly if you want to share with the world. But I recommend writing down your pivot number. Okay. So that's number 2. Number 3. Well, let me get to the comments first. Hey, Nasia, she's joining in from North Carolina. Joe says, I believe, like it. And Nasia says, I like to pivot back into another area of legal. Okay, in litigation now, I want to go into contract law or corporate law. Corporate law is fun. I actually looked into corporate law and employment law before, or back into commercial banking. Okay. So you've got some options there. And the law is going to be similar when you go into commercial banking. And just know, you all, what I'm telling you is the preliminary. I'm gonna give let me know if I'm saying your name right. Nasia, Nane, is it Nasia or Nasia? You may need two different resumes. Okay. If one is banking and one is legal, you may need two different resumes. And then you may need a profile that speaks to both options or rank them. Which one is your primary? Which one is your secondary pivot? Joe says my pivot number is 125. Yes. Yes. And let me tell y'all, please pay attention to this. I've had people that I've worked with and talked to, and they'll be like, I pivoted and I ain't had to take no pay cut. I took a raise. But they was making 40,000. It's like, all right, says sometimes it's easy. It is easier to me to pivot when you're at an entry level or mid-level. But pivoting when you're like, hey, I want 125 to pivot, sis, you can do that. That's your pivot number. You can do that. Nation says 100K. Yes. You guys making six figures, and y'all know this is my specialty, right? Helping my clients reach six figures and beyond. It's way easier than you think right now. Honestly, because the cost of living is just higher. So companies know they need to pay a little more. However, with that salary does come more responsibility, and you need to position yourself in your pivot differently. Which is going to bring me to my tip number 3. You need to know your personal brand. And let me tell you what I mean by that. By personal branding, what makes you stand out? What do you do better than anyone else? What is the unique skill about you and the unique problem that you solve? So many times when we look at pivots, we don't think about our personal brand. And for Joe and anyone else who wants to pivot into a business, sis, you have to know your personal brand. Why should they choose you versus all these other people starting a business and all these other people that they could go to for their services, right? If you're pivoting into another industry, how are you positioning yourself better than someone who has been in this industry completely for the last 15, 20 years? You need to answer that question before you apply, before you get into the interview. And let me tell you what it could be. It could be, for me, it was my diverse background. Each time I did a pivot, when I pivoted into marketing, I was like, hey, my background in accounting and hospitality makes me a better marketer. And I had a degree, right? So don't discount any formal education that you may have. Don't discount any informal education. Informal education and informal experience is like volunteering, being on different boards, having a natural gift at something that you're just inept to, that just comes to you easily. Don't forget about these things. For me, I would say like I'm a private extrovert. So meaning I naturally can talk to people. I wasn't always an extrovert. Being in hospitality kind of helped me become this way, right? And so I used to always say I'm friendly but strategic, meaning I could talk to you and be friendly, but I'm strategizing. I'm taking what you're saying. I'm implementing. I'm figuring out how to solve problems. So my motto, I used to say, I don't put out fires, I prevent them. And the way that I prevented fires was being friendly and strategic, and meaning people would come to me and let me know something when something was smoldering versus a fire. How can you utilize what you already have? Right? What is special about you? How can you use that as leverage when you're pivoting? And you need to know this. Oh, Nisa pronounce. Okay, all right. Thank you for letting me know. Is it Nisa? All right, pronounced. All right. I just wanted to make sure. You are. I'm always trying to get people's name right because my name is Latrice, but I get Latricia, Lucretia. I get it all. So even when it's written down, I want to try to pronounce people's name as correctly as possible. All right, I'm going to pronounce your name correctly. But I want you all to know what is special, what is unique about you. Before you get into an interview, you need to know this. Like if I have a background in if you have a background in accounting and you want to pivot into human resources, how is that such a unique and powerful skill? How have all your 10, 15 years in accounting prepared you and will make you an even better HR professional? All right. Just like if I'm like Joe, if I'm going from government work to owning my own HR consulting, then how can I position that and tell people this is how you can work through the government, through the bureaucracy and the red tape of the government? How can I now leverage what I know? Right? So I want you all to kind of think about what is unique or special about you. One thing, just one thing. For me, it was that I'm a very strategic person, but I'm friendly, right? Like I was like, I'm always thinking like two, three steps ahead. Like my brain is always working. And I used to think that was such a terrible thing. Now I love it. I'm like, I can take in a lot of information, even when people are talking. You know how some people can't take in multiple things? I'm like, even if it's like two, three people talking, I'm like, I got it. Bam, this is what we're going to do. This, I'm like, all right, I can see the big picture. This is the problem we're solving. What is that thing? I had someone else tell me, she was like, one of her gifts is that she can get people to move. Can you get people to do things? When everybody's like, I tried, that person don't work, but you can go over, talk to them, persuade them, and now they're moving. Do you have a different perspective on things? Can you see things differently? Do you see things in a way that everyone else doesn't see it? All right. These are the things you need to leverage and use. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, this is good. She says, I just had an interview today. Do they have to ask you that question, or you just sell yourself on the unique skill to which I have my superior thorough communication. Wait a minute. Superior, thorough, communicative, person gift. I like that. I like that. If you know that you have superior communication skills, right? And you have a natural way of talking to people and communicating where you understand them and they understand you, brilliant. And to answer your question, no, you do not need them to ask the question for you to bring this up. In fact, with my clients, I recommend that they bring it up in their story. So we do this thing called hero stories. Your hero stories should align with your branding, with your personal brand, and with the entity or the place that you're trying to pivot into. Okay. So they may not ask directly what's your personal brand or what's unique about you. They may ask, why should we hire you? They may say, tell me a time you had to handle a difficult coworker, right? This would be the time that you would talk about your superior communicative communication skills, right? This is the time. So don't think that the question would be direct. It can be an indirect question, but when they go back and evaluate, they're going to remember she's great. She's a great communicator. She gave us stories. We need someone who can communicate with all levels of employees, who can communicate with leaders to entry level, to middle management, to the janitor. We need that, right? And so it will also, when you know your personal brand and your unique gift, so to say, it will separate you from other candidates. It will separate you from internal candidates because they can say, all right, we have this person who knows about the company and they've been here for a while, but guess what? They're the same old, same old. They can't get along with other people. We've gotten complaints about them, but they've just been here. Now, it will help you in a competitive market like right now when you have so many people in the job market, and for every job application you can see 100, 200, upwards of 400 applicants, right? This is going to set you apart because you're going to know how to talk about your unique skills, your unique skill set, and why it's better than someone else. All right. So, no, they do not need to ask the question directly for you to bring it up. And you can bring it up in answering their questions in a very fluid way. Okay. Let me check the next question. While in government, I worked 6 years under a labor and employment law attorney. Great. And then another almost 5 years in their HR department. Oh, yeah, that's amazing. You think about how many companies would love this expertise, big and small companies would love this expertise, right? So think about that and your unique aspect and your unique take on it, right? Because usually your personal brand is a combination of your experience and expertise in education, yes, and what comes naturally to you, your unique gift. It's a combination of both. All right. And when you know how to speak on that, you're going to find yourself acing the interviews, getting more offers, landing clients easily, because you know how to speak on this. All right. Those are my top three right there. I'll be talking more about the pivots. If you all, again, are interested in the free workshop that we just did, how to pivot as a woman of color beyond 40. And I've gotten this question, you will learn a lot even if you are not 40. I had someone ask, they were like, what if I'm not 40? You will still learn a lot. Put pivot in the comments and we'll go ahead and get that link to you all. If you all want to talk to me privately, feel free to message me. And then if you have any other topics that you would like me to hear, you want me to speak on, just put them in the comments. I would love to hear from you all. I'm going to be doing this weekly series. We're going to be coming live to you all. I think I'm going to call it Lunchtime with Latrice, but let me know. I'm going to be coming live to you all every Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be talking about career, life, business topics that impact and affect women of color. So this show is for you. So any topics and any questions that you have, even my replay people, I always get hundreds of people watching the replay. So hashtag team replay, feel free to put your questions and comments in the comment section and I'll get back to you all. You all have a wonderful day and a wonderful week. Hey.